Then Rebecca, who is Michael's fiancée, did a total face expression that gave away the game. This tastes awful. She chuckled. If I eat this, you don't want to know what comes out of me. Making fun of the dish which I had made with so much love. I tested this earlier, and it seemed to work. Rebecca was just being picky. We had taken an entire 3 days to prepare this meal for Richard and I. We even manned the whole house from top to bottom, made our best silverware for table setting, and cooked like there was no tomorrow in hope that everything would be epic. When our eldest son and his wife were coming over, we threw a party. Looking back, Richard and I felt silly for getting our hopes up. The whole evening turned out to be a bit of a disaster, but we laughed it off and promised ourselves that we wouldn't let it dampen our spirits. I'm Emma, and I am 70 years old, living with my husband, Richard. Our son, Michael, graduated from a fancy college, got a job in a big company, and moved to Boston 2 years back. He said he was getting hitched. The girl he introduced as his fiancée seemed nice. Michael said after the wedding, they'd move closer to us and wanted to bond, especially Rebecca. We were cool with it, but wondered about Megan. Michael assured us she was thrilled and wanted to get close to us, so we were on board with their plan. Around 2 months after tying the knot, Michael and Rebecca stuck to their word and relocated close to us. We were looking forward to bonding with Michael and getting to know Rebecca better, but reality hit us hard. Michael switched from his main office to a branch in our town, thinking it would work out fine, but life was more challenging. The issue was Rebecca's spending habits. Even when Michael was earning well at headquarters, Rebecca had a habit of overspending. When Michael's paycheck took a slight hit after the transfer, Rebecca's spending didn't slow down. It got worse. No matter how much Michael brought in, Rebecca used most of it, leaving them in a tough spot. Michael was never one to fuss over his looks and lived a simple life. He was always hustling to earn more and rarely had time to visit us. Rebecca wasn't around much either, making their move nearby seem pointless. Even though they were close by, we hardly ever saw them. Michael was always caught up in work, and we were hesitant to directly reach out to Rebecca. It felt heartbreaking knowing Michael was going through a tough time. Despite his struggles, we tried to help by sending them $11,000 every month. We wished we could give more, but with Richard retiring and us living on a pension, it was all we could manage. Every time we sent money, Michael would express his gratitude, but his voice sounded weary, which pained us deeply. We wanted to support him as his parents, so we decided to help in any small way we could. On our days off, we'd spend time with him, take him shopping, and treat him to a meal. When Michael and Rebecca were away, we cleaned their house for them. We knew these gestures couldn't solve all of Michael's problems, but doing something felt better than doing nothing. 2 years went by, and Michael's situation didn't improve. Seeing him struggle, we felt compelled to do something. We came up with a plan to invite Michael and Rebecca over for a meal. Knowing Rebecca might not accept a simple dinner invitation, we decided to go all out and prepare a lavish feast to tempt them. When I suggested this to Richard, he hesitated because he wasn't confident in his cooking skills, but he took the initiative and even went out to buy the ingredients. To our delight, the promise of a feast did the trick, and both Michael and Rebecca agreed to come over. For 3 days and nights, Richard and I busied ourselves with preparing the meal. When Michael and Rebecca showed up at our doorstep in the afternoon, they appeared to unwind, shedding the stresses of their daily lives. Michael seemed particularly worn out, prompting us to offer him our bedroom to rest. As Michael headed off to rest, Rebecca, seemingly unaware of our cooking efforts, lounged on the sofa, engrossed in the TV. Suddenly, she strolled into the kitchen and bluntly questioned, "Why are you putting in so much effort?" Taken aback by her abrupt inquiry, we were unable to respond before she continued. Seriously, what's the point? Are you enjoying this? If you have spare time, why not find work and make some money? Retirement must be tough, huh? Her mocking laughter filled the room. I stepped forward. Isn't it impolite to speak like that when you're invited for a meal? Where's your respect for your in-laws? A little decency wouldn't hurt. Rebecca's face flushed red. Are you trying to pick a fight with me? Do you think your words don't sting? I had no intention of starting a confrontation. I simply wanted her to exhibit basic manners. However, seeing her twist my words and become defensive left me speechless. Apparently satisfied with her outburst, she returned to the living room. Richard looked dismayed, but we had dinner preparations to focus on, so we tried to regroup. Suddenly, from the hallway, we heard Rebecca's voice escalating. Why are you always against me? Can't you support me just once? I'm your wife. Alarmed, we hurried out to see what was going on. Rebecca stood by the bedroom door, and Michael, who should have been resting, was there too. Why won't you stand by me? Why are you siding with your parents? Rebecca shouted, clutching Michael's shirt. Sensing the situation spiraling out of control, we intervened. Let's calm down. What's happening here? Richard held Rebecca back while I approached Michael to understand what was happening. Weary, Michael recounted what had occurred. He had been trying to get some rest in the bedroom after a long day at work, but was startled awake by a slamming door. Upon investigating, he found Rebecca in a state of fury. She vented about feeling harassed and labeled me as the problem. Michael was bewildered and overwhelmed by her heated emotions. Rebecca misinterpreted Michael's silence as taking our side, and she began questioning his loyalty as her husband. Michael, still groggy from sleep, struggled to comprehend the situation and felt powerless. Rebecca's anger only escalated upon seeing Michael's confusion, leaving him caught in the middle and visibly drained. I confronted Rebecca, saying, "It's not okay to wake up and yell at your exhausted husband. Do you understand how strange you're acting?" Rebecca, perhaps feeling trapped, mumbled a half-hearted apology, but her eyes showed no remorse. Despite the tension, we gathered around the table for dinner. We had prepared juicy steaks and fresh seafood from the local market, trying to offer the best. Michael seemed to appreciate it, but Rebecca, glancing at the spread, made a sarcastic remark. "Just because you serve this doesn't mean I'll overlook the harassment." It was disheartening to hear after all our efforts. Michael tried to lighten the mood with different topics, but Rebecca shut down each attempt with icy comments. I told her, "You need to change your attitude," but she simply ignored me. The TV was off, so I knew she heard me. Honestly, I felt dejected, realizing that she deliberately ignored me and feeling discouraged. Richard tried to comfort me. We managed to say grace before the meal, but after tasting a dish, she exclaimed, "What's this disgusting mess? I'll get sick from eating this." She laughed mockingly, leaving me speechless at her cruelty. But she didn't stop there. "You're deliberately trying to make me sick with this food, aren't you? You go to such extremes just to torment me. You're truly wicked, mother-in-law." Her words dripped with disdain, causing my hands to tremble with anger. Why must we endure this? How can Rebecca treat others so cruelly? Seeing Michael so exhausted, why doesn't she feel any inclination to help? Why does she brush off our kindness? I had so much I wanted to express to Rebecca, but the right words eluded me. However, I couldn't let her behavior continue unchecked. Sensing my frustration, Richard reached for his plate. I've remained silent until now, but I've reached my limit. Richard's usually calm demeanor transformed into something intimidating when he was angry. It had been a long time since I'd seen him so upset. With his anger still simmering, Richard declared, "I'm ending ties with you. Leave immediately." Richard's voice boomed as he confronted Rebecca. Even Rebecca appeared startled, her face paling. "What's this, father-in-law? How could you say such things to your daughter-in-law? Do you find joy in causing trouble? I never imagined you, father-in-law, would stoop so low." She shot back, tears welling in her eyes. But despite Rebecca's protests, Richard stood firm. "I don't care if you call it harassment. I can't consider you family anymore. Leave." Richard's words made Rebecca realize the severity of the situation. "Fine, I'll go. From now on, I want nothing to do with you or mother-in-law." "You'll regret this," she declared, packing her belongings and departing. I asked Michael if he wanted to go after her, but he seemed resigned. "It doesn't matter," he muttered, focusing on his meal. So we opted to let her go, fearing another confrontation if Michael followed her home. We decided he would stay the night. Michael appeared relieved, preferring not to face Rebecca at that moment. For the first time in ages, we enjoyed some genuine family time. We swapped stories, aired grievances about Rebecca, and even camped out in the living room, reminiscing about old times. The cramped couch reminded me how much Michael had grown. However, our peace was short-lived. The next morning, the doorbell rang, jolting us awake. As anticipated, it was Rebecca standing in the room. I confirmed it was indeed Rebecca at the door. As Michael, Richard, and I debated our next move, the door was pounded loudly. "Mother-in-law, I know you're in there." "Where's Michael?" "He's here, isn't he?" "Let him out." Rebecca's words filled me with dread. Handing Michael over to her now could only make things worse. So we agreed to let Rebecca in and have a conversation. As soon as the door opened, Rebecca barged in, fixing me with a hostile glare. "You think you can steal someone's husband? That's outrageous." She yelled, her anger palpable. But her accusations no longer affected me. "That's a harsh way to put it. We simply offered him a place to stay because of the way you've been treating him. He made the choice, not me. Blaming me is unfair, don't you think?" Rebecca's face blushed crimson. "You're the worst mother-in-law and father-in-law for allowing this behavior. Stay away from us forever." Her words held no sway over us. Richard and I were prepared to sever ties with Rebecca. Tension hung thick in the air until Michael's words changed everything. "I can't do this anymore. Let's get a divorce." Michael's words stunned Rebecca, her face still flushed with anger. "Divorce? Seriously? You're choosing your parents over me?" Her tone softened, and she pleaded with Michael, her eyes filled with desperation. But Michael stood firm. "A wife who neglects her responsibilities and parties constantly versus my parents, who've always been there for me. The choice is obvious." Rebecca, still unconvinced, argued, "They're just manipulating you. Once they have you, they'll abandon you too." Faced with accusations, we never abandoned Michael. But Rebecca, eager to portray us as villains, hysterically shouted, "You're trying to take Michael away from me. Do you hate me that much?" At this point, it was unclear how to calm her down. Then unexpectedly, Michael slapped Rebecca across the face. The room fell silent. Shocked, Rebecca struggled to comprehend what had just happened. "You've not only been a burden to me, but also to my parents. Aren't you ashamed? I hoped you'd come to your senses, but I was wrong. Please, please don't say such things. I love you. Please reconsider. My decision is final. From now on, we're strangers. Don't ever call yourself my wife again." Rebecca looked defeated. No one reached out to her. Eventually, she left, realizing there was no point in arguing. In the following days, Michael stayed with us as he initiated the divorce proceedings, which were recently finalized. Rebecca was hesitant to sign the papers, so they had to involve lawyers. Fortunately, Michael had evidence of Rebecca's extravagant spending habits, which helped him secure the divorce. He also sought compensation in court due to his deteriorating health from stress and overwork. Unfortunately, Michael was diagnosed with a life-related illness. Rebecca's parents eventually paid the settlement, leaving Michael indebted to them. Rebecca now works tirelessly, day and night, to repay them. After the divorce, Michael continued to reside with us for some time. We wanted to give him a reprieve, especially considering all he had endured. Today, Michael has regained his footing and is working diligently as ever. While life may present him with more challenges, we will always be there for him as his parents, offering our unwavering support in every possible way. Finally, let's conclude the whole story. In the end, despite the turmoil and challenges, Michael found the strength to stand up for himself and make the difficult decision to end his marriage with Rebecca. With the unwavering support of his parents, he navigated through the storm and emerged stronger. As for Rebecca, her journey continues, learning hard lessons and striving to rebuild her life. Though the road ahead may be uncertain, Michael's parents remain steadfast, ready to provide love and support whenever he needs it, reaffirming the enduring bond of family.